All right, time now for our business update. We're going to start in Argentina with the election of the libertarian Javier Milei. Hi, Solange. You're here to tell us a bit more about all of this. One thing we know is that he has made some incredibly radical economic campaign promises, and that's because Argentina's economy is really in dire straits.
Yeah, if you think that inflation in France is bad with its few percentage points, well, in Argentina, it has hit 140%. This is a multi-pronged problem, of course, but it is largely due to the fact that the government's long held a habit of simply issuing more money to cover government spending. But on top of that, there is also a massive amount of IMF debt. The IMF has actually lent more to Argentina than any other single nation, and the country cannot repay it, so it will need to be reworked under the new presidency. Liza Kavanaugh has more on Milei's agenda and his promises.
Argentina's new president-elect greets the crowds with a chainsaw in hand, a symbol of the radical cuts he's about to make to the state. Javier Milei was elected in a landslide victory after leading a polarized campaign. The right-wing libertarian has vowed to dramatically shake up politics to pull the country out of its deep crisis. His main promise has been to introduce drastic measures to rein in the crippled country's inflation and poverty. At the heart of his economic plan is slashing Argentina's public spending by 15%. The 53-year-old economist vows to rebuild the country by replacing the peso with the dollar, closing the central bank, reducing subsidies on fuel, transport and electricity, and cutting welfare payouts. Inflation in the country has reached 143% in 1 year, with 40% of the population below the poverty line, a social and economic crisis which Milei says needs shock therapy.
Argentina's situation is critical. The changes our country needs are drastic. There's no room for gradualism. There's no room for tepidness. There's no room for half measures.
The self-defined anarcho-capitalist wants to loosen gun laws and abolish women's right to abortion. He also plans to eliminate 10 of 18 key ministries, including those of health and education. Javier Milei also wants to rethink ties with Argentina's key trading partners, China and Brazil, but he will face major hurdles when sworn in next month. The country has a $44 billion debt with the International Monetary Fund, its coffers are in the red, and its dollar reserves in the central bank are short, making it difficult to realize his plan to replace the peso. Javier Milei's party is far from having the majority in parliament, with only 38 deputies out of 257, and in the Senate only 8 seats out of 72, which may compromise his legislative agenda.
So, Solange, another part of the problem is Argentina's exchange rate with the dollar.
Yeah, there are actually multiple exchange rates, and they go from bad to worse for Argentinians. When it comes to the official one, which is tightly controlled, it has not stopped dropping, as we see in that graph right there. And then on top of that official rate, there's the blue market rate, which is a euphemism for the black market. Currently, it is over 900 pesos to the dollar, or triple the official rate of over $350 for 1 peso that is on the official market. We see those figures there. Now, concretely, what does this mean? It means that the peso has collapsed against the dollar, losing around 90% of its value. To fix this, Milei has vowed somewhat vaguely to scrap the peso for the US dollar and have that as the currency of Argentina. But hundreds of economists wrote an open letter saying that this is a terrible idea, that Argentina doesn't have the dollars that it needs in the reserves to make the switch, and it is already short on foreign exchanges, and it can no longer borrow any more than it already has.
All right, Solange, let's come back to Europe now. How are the markets doing today here?
Well, at the start, European markets were mixed today at the open as investors were cautiously assessing the prospect of rate cuts. Inflation is coming down, but the markets are in a bit of a mixed bag at the moment, as we see the London FTSE minus 0.10%, the CAC 40 0.26.
There's another big business story today that's happening in the tech world. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's kept Silicon Valley sort of on the edge of its seat all weekend. On Friday, OpenAI, the company that some say changed the world, introducing us to ChatGPT, well, its board fired their co-founder, Sam Altman. Now, the exact reasons for this firing are unclear, but Altman has long been an advocate for little regulation on artificial intelligence, and the board said essentially that the trust between them and the co-founder had disintegrated. Nonetheless, the move came as a major surprise. A number of employees resigned right after it, including the other co-founder, Greg Brockman. And OpenAI's main investor, Microsoft, rallied to their sides. Why? Well, for many in the tech world, as they note, Sam Altman isn't just any employee.
Look, Altman is the golden child of AI, and this is going to have a ripple effect across the industry as well as Wall Street. You start to have founders and CEOs that are bigger than the board, bigger than the company. And that's really what played out here in terms of with Altman, that became the face of AI globally.
Now, the story has been moving very quickly over the weekend. On Sunday, it actually looked like Altman was going to be reinstated and possibly the board being ditched. But now OpenAI's board has selected Emmett Shear, who is the co-founder of Twitch, the video streaming site, to take over at OpenAI. And as for Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, they will be moving to Microsoft to head up a new AI research team. And this means that OpenAI now has a major rival and competitor at Microsoft, spearheaded by its former creators. Now, again, it's an ongoing story, but one that could have a major effect on how, and specifically who holds the reins and how artificial intelligence enters into our lives.
It is interesting stuff. All right, Solange, thank you so much for that look at today's business news.